Are drying rivers a warning of Europe's tomorrow? Waterways fell to historically low levels during long, ferociously hot summer. And this is by BBC on WND. Along the Danube River in Germany, which snakes its way for 1,800 miles. That's 2,898 kilometers. From the Black Forest in Germany to the Black Sea in Romania, across scores of towns, such as the small Romanian port of Zimnicia on the Bulgarian border, depend on the waterway for their livelihood. But this summer's epic drought and historic high temperatures, now in the fifth grueling month, have depleted the once mighty Danube River, upending everything that Zimnicia's residents, port workers, farmers, shipping industry, anglers, restaurant owners, and families had for generations counted on to sustain themselves. Never in living memory has the river run so low, with large areas of mud-cracked river bottom exposed along Zimnicia's shorelines, the dead mollusks evidence of the devastating toll on the river life. With the Danube flowing at less than half its usual summer volume, dozens of cargo barges lie motionless in Zimnicia's harbor, waiting for a turn to use the only channel deep enough for passage. The locals are collecting the scant rainwater to use for household purposes in order to save potable water from the Danube for drinking. Children play along the shorelines and new beaches. As elsewhere along the Danube and indeed across Europe, this summer emergency dredging teams have been called in to deepen the riverway to break the cargo jam. Nevertheless, grain transports emanating from Ukraine, with many of its Black Sea ports controlled by Russia, the Danube is an alternative route for the country to export foodstuffs, have been forced to shed cargo weight in order to pass when they can pass, if they can pass at all. Now, across southern Romania, Romania is, as we know, southwest of Ukraine, much of which relies on the Danube for fresh drinking water. Hundreds of villages are rationing water supplies, curtailing the irrigation of farmland that Europe relies upon for corn, grain, sunflower, and vegetables. The cruise ships that normally ferry tourists along this iconic waterway are docked. In the first 6 months of the year, Romanian hydropower utility Hydroelectrica generated a third less electricity than it normally does. And Romania, wheat farmers say that drought has cost them a fifth of their harvest. Romania is one of Europe's largest wheat producers, and all the more important for the international market in light of Russia's blockage of much of Ukraine's wheat exports. Now, as towns up and down the Danube brought the drought and climate change take on the existential meaning, a journey up driver, Nick Thorpe of the Danube, Nick Thorpe, from the Black Sea to the Black Forest, says, in contrast to city dwellers, they're having this disaster unfold before their eyes. Nearly 2/3 of Europe suffered drought conditions this year, the worst dry spell in 500 years. Scientists say global warming has played a large role in this crisis. Along the Rhine, barges that carry coal, oil, and commodities that supply millions of people are waylaid, and by July, water levels in Italy's Po River were so low that the government declared a state of emergency in northern Italy, where vast fields of crops were abandoned. And in France, the warmer waters of the Rhone and Garonne were less effective in cooling the systems of nuclear power plants, so it forced numerous power plants, nuclear plants, to cut their output. And hundreds of tributaries to the larger rivers are in even worse shape. They're bone dry. And in early August, France's Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne said that France is in the midst of the most severe drought the country has ever experienced, which has sapped rivers including the Loire, Doubs, Dordogne, and the Garonne, that hundreds of municipalities now require that drinking water be delivered by truck. So solving the crisis unfolding along Europe's rivers will of course involve long-term endeavor of slowing global warming, and in the short term, scientists say governments need to address other factors stressing the continent's waterways, including enforcing stronger wetland protections. Fortunately, One scientist says that we still have glaciers that act as a reservoir for the bigger rivers in times of lower precipitation, but climate change modelers say they'll be gone in 30 years. This is extremely worrisome. We're talking about the Alps. Robert Lichtner, Vienna-based coordinator of the European Union strategy for the Danube region, says that adaptation measures ultimately must be part of the basin's future. He says, we want to slow these processes down, but the extreme weather is not going away. We'll have to adapt and learn to live with it, he says. And this is on WD from BBC. Please hear your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.